Minister, Sri Rajya Pradhanji, Honorable Minister Pratap Sarangi, all the dignitaries of the dais, my good friend Mr. Amar Mishra. I know him since last probably 30 years now. Ladies and gentlemen, pleasure completely mine to be here, to have been invited here to this function by the Orissa Corporate Foundation. I must say that the factors of production generally, which are responsible for what we have been taught in economics, what we have been taught in basic economics rather, that land, labor, capital, managerial competence. I would probably like to think that the same applies in large measure to a startup. But what differentiates? What's important, as Dr. Santru Mishra said, is also that you need to have capital. Others have said you need to have the people. But what differentiates is, I think, the most important couple of things is innovation and entrepreneurship. The core, the entire core of startup ecosystem, I would personally think, lies at the ideas. The ideas, as Dr. Mishra said, ideas are important, the entrepreneur is important, and that's implicit in these two words that I mentioned. The ideation that has to take place, I think, has a lot to do with the educational system that we have followed over a period of time since long, which is a legacy of the British system. It's largely isomorphic, mimetic, that you try to repeat, you try to mimic something, nothing new. Now that has to change. When we talk about ecosystems, I have gone through the ecosystems that's currently prevalent in India, currently prevalent in Orissa. I'll talk about Orissa a little later. I was fascinated by something which I experienced myself during the elections. A particular company came up to us and said that we want to use augmented reality to take Naveen Patnaik to every household in Orissa. Now, the concept that came up purely through a discussion over a period of 1 month between the entrepreneur and me is something that emerged, which was being tried for the first time in an election in India. And that was using augmented reality to create the image or the entire thing that is being of our Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik, and use the technology to take it through a mobile phone to every household, take a photograph with the person in that household where the CM invites him or her to take a photograph with them, print the photograph out with the signature of the Chief Minister and give it out. That really caught the eyeballs, really drew attention. Now, similar kind of ideation is something which I thought is not coming out from our education system. So I would probably like to think that while Skill India is all right, skilling ecosystem being improved is all right, the most important thing that we have to probably do is to improve this educational system, both at the secondary school level and the higher secondary school level and at the university level. Why I emphasize secondary and higher secondary level is most of the innovations, most of the path-breaking, disruptive innovations that have taken place in this world have been done by people who are young and who have most often probably not had great education. It's not to say that great education is not required to have innovations. So I say that the entire system of our educational eco-hub has to change. And that's where I think the investment should equally be made. Now, coming to the startup system, in Orissa, when we developed our policy, Honorable Chief Minister said that there are 3 things important. The 3 things, very goal-based, the 3 things that were important is that we want to be within the top 3 leaders of the country in startup. We want to have 1,000 startups by 2020, and we want to have 33% women entrepreneurs. This is path-breaking, and let me tell you, what's the result today? The result today is that we have about 570 registered startups, out of which 100 plus are women entrepreneurs. We have startups in the health sector, in the rural development sector, in the agriculture sector, in the IT-enabled services. I also have to I have to flag one issue here. What's significant is these ideas, which have to germinate to give rise to a startup, should not necessarily be in the IT and IT-enabled space. Because what is India's worry is when we say that the contribution of our agriculture to the GDP is so low compared to what it used to be 100 years ago. We have made the investments, we are making the investments, we are taking the easy route of MSP operations by giving artificially administering prices and distorting the market to help our farmers. That's all fine, but no great innovation, no great idea to change things at the farm gate level, to change things as the way the aggregation can take place so that economies of scale can be reached to the marketplace, it has really emerged. I think that's where, unless you address a need, no idea can succeed. As they say, that you first think about the market, but the market will only accept something where there is a need. And that identification of need, in my opinion, in India, in Orissa, is in the field of agriculture and allied sector. Now we talked about agricultural reefer van systems. Using railway wagons as refrigerated wagons and using a national grid. But how does the small farmers reach that particular grid, particularly for a perishable good? During my long experience as Director of Agricultural Marketing, I have found that that's where the problem is. Aggregation is currently being done by middlemen and who do not use any refrigerated systems. The thought that came to me, can we use auto rickshaws, some kind of a refrigerated system to create some economies? We have to use all kinds of technologies for developing our agriculture and allied sector, because that's where the food security will come from, that's where hunger will come down, and that's where the contribution to the GDP will come down. I'm not denigrating the fact that the industries and the service sector have to contribute too. The most important thing in startup ecosystem, I thought, is, as somebody said, is the confidence. Is the confidence that you will try and you will probably fail as well. The Indian education system does not teach us to learn from failures, or does not teach us to accept failures and start running all over again. The ability to take risks with ideas and probably fail and modify those ideas to probably take a bigger risk or mitigate your risk has not yet come up. So when we say that we are currently developing an ecosystem in Orissa, we will say that we have, by the way, in the last survey that has been done by DIPP, Orissa has been assessed as the leader in startups in the entire country, and it has been treated as a leader in policy formulation, in the ecosystem that we have, in the market, in the start production interventions that we make in terms of facilities for innovation centers, the funding that we do for, monthly funding that we do for the startup entrepreneurs, and even a higher for the women, for the transgenders. The fact remains that the innovation has to be tied to a need, and that need has to solve a huge human problem. And that system of thinking creatively right from the beginning has perhaps been made by the Government of India in several schemes in hotel innovation, the tinkering labs, many such schemes have come about, which is really a good thing, but that has to really take off. And then only probably we'll reach a system in which the startups will drive the economy. Let me also tell you that most of the developed countries in the world have developed only because of this innovation. And we are talking about disruptive technologies. I have seen many of these startups who have come to me talking about IT and IT-enabled services, but I always say that the space where these startups can intervene to change and transform societies is in social sector. And that would change India, because that's where the face of India would change. I do not say that you don't make money. I say that you can make money by investing in social enterprises, in social enterprises too. Being a change agent, being a change agent is probably equally important than being a commercial, than developing a commercial enterprise entirely. Recently, the Orissa government signed an agreement with HDFC, I think, bank a couple of days ago, maybe just last week, which is only for social impact investing. That's the first time probably any state has done in India. Orissa has probably been, as we said, that we keep talking about the Boita Bandhana and whatever. I must tell you that it's true actually. When I went to Brunei during the audit of the High Commission of Brunei, I saw Kalinga inscribed coins in the museum, in Brunei museum. And I understood that some ship had sunk and that is what they had taken out. So it was indeed there, and somewhere along the way it got lost. The enterprise that we need to have, that enterprise, the strength of warriors is probably the intelligence, the hard work, but the weakness is that to get those ideas, we are probably too rooted in not changing things, to being copying something which I said is mimetic and isomorphic. We are following the same structure that probably gives results. The exercise of the experimentation that the Orissa government has been doing in startup is really interesting, is really mind-boggling, I must say, because for the first time, there is a skilled Orissa which is giving the people in the factors of production. There is the incubation centers, 4.5 lakh square feet of land is of constructed space is available in 12 incubation centers. 70 academic institutions are linked to the to these incubation centers and to the ecosystem. We are now, in fact, I fly back at 4 o'clock to join a Moore College mission that we are doing to change the ecosystem in the higher education in the state. And I think with that, the completed ecosystem for startups will develop in the state. And all of you can really contribute to this process of development. When we feel that we as warriors who have had probably the good fortune of being trained outside Orissa, we must also think that the change that people will remember, people expect from us in Orissa, from warriors, has to happen in Orissa itself. The change has to happen in Orissa, because if we are saying that Orissa is one of the poorest states, Orissa has not developed, then obviously the opportunity for bringing about this change is maximum in Orissa. And we in the government of Orissa, I can say, I'm not a part of the government, but I'm part of the ruling party, I can say that we would really look forward to any kind of initiative. I was so happy when last month I was in UK to find a warrior girl trying to extract perfumes from the Keuda flower in Ganjam district and trying to have her own perfume line. And she has invited me, and they've set up a factory, and that factory is in Gajipati district. These are very interesting times for all of us, and I'm sure all of you are here who can contribute to the capital, who can contribute to the ideas, who can contribute to the managerial abilities, all that can give rise to production in the startup space. Once again, I'm very thankful to the foundation. I'm sure the corporate foundation will show the way for several such initiatives to come to our state and bring about change that we have been aspiring for so many decades now. Thank you so much.